Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. I was up till 3:30 in the morning. How about you? Welcome to the program. November 4th across America. The country's still very much uncertain and vulnerable. Certainly feelings of 2020. Am I right? Thank you for joining us. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. So much we're going to cover. We'll, of course, offer some perspective from last night. We'll tie it to Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We'll talk Bob Good topping Cameron Webb in a back-and-forth 5th district race. We'll talk the first majority black council in Roanoke, Virginia history. You heard me correctly. The first majority black city council in Roanoke, Virginia history. That story on the I Love CVille show. Casinos everywhere in America. Casinos and cannabis, clear-cut winners in this 2020 election. We'll talk about that in about 10 or 15 minutes on this program. Dave Norris, former mayor, Charlottesville, Virginia, good friend of this program, stand-up guy. He's our guest in 20 minutes. Crystal Napier with Crystal Napier Spotlight, presented by Renee's Boutique in the 1 o'clock hour. It's November 4th, and this show is locked and loaded. I want to start with some notes I was taking last night, some notes I was taking today, and I'd like for you to offer your perspective in the feed. What's your feedback, your emotions, what you're feeling, what's going through your mind through this roller coaster of a 2020 year and this roller coaster of an election? I'm going to start with some things here. If you can look at my page, you see it's jam-packed with notes, and it's just kind of stream of conscious that I want to relay to you. I kind of teased this to start the program. 2020 has been one of the most challenging years for America, for us, for Charlottesville, for Virginia, for the Commonwealth, for the country. COVID, we have no plan for this, no experience for this. We don't know the proper protocols, right? And since March here in Charlottesville, let's localize it. Since March in Charlottesville, when we saw the University of Virginia men's basketball team competing in the ACC tournament, and then we saw the tournament canceled, then the NCAA tournament canceled, then we all started realizing, good Lord, let's buckle up. This is going to be brutal. We see the restaurant scene get ravaged in Charlottesville and Central Virginia across the country. We see tourism get ravaged in Charlottesville, in Central Virginia, and across the country. We see hospitality, hotels, vacations, weddings, events, retail get ravaged, get bombarded, get hammered. We see flooding in the city of Stanton. Legitimately, in downtown Stanton, there were floods like it was Noah's Ark going through Stanton, destruction of property and hurting people's businesses. We have everything you could possibly imagine. The cancellation of an NCAA men's basketball tournament. We had what appeared to be an economic recession as Wall Street crashed. We had vulnerability and uncertainty on Main Street as jobs were being lost at record clips, an unemployment rate that was well over 20% at one time. We saw professional basketball, the National Basketball Association, play its postseason in a bubble in Orlando without fans. We see the National Football League and its football teams having to cancel games to a pandemic and a virus we've never seen before. We see uncertainty, squabbling, and beef in Charlottesville City Hall. We see a fear across the world. We're uncertain whether we can bring our grocery bags into the house. We leave our grocery bags in the garage for 24 hours before we unload them because we're uncertain if this virus will pass to us from plastic and paper. We take our clothes off in the mudroom. We take our clothes off in the garage. We don't bring them inside. We consider incinerating our clothes and our shoes if we have to visit loved ones in hospitals. We go months, weeks and months without seeing our most vulnerable population, our grandparents, our parents, for fear of exposing them to a virus. We have a year that has challenged us as humans to the very core. And here we are in the first few days of November, in an election that the entire world is watching. And of course, we get what is one of the most unpredictable, challenging, emotionally stressful elections known to mankind. A couple of notes I want to get out of my notebook. This was a record-setting turnout for America. I'm going to reiterate this. The election turnout for this presidential election was the best turnout from a number of votes standpoint in American history. A projected 159.8 million Americans will have voted in this election. Get this, 239 million Americans are eligible to vote. So 239 million eligible, about 160 million are voting. That's a voter turnout of almost 67%. A voter turnout of almost 67%. That is the highest voter turnout percentage since 1990. Of course, the turnout was going to be epic. You have a pandemic, you have a Wall Street, Main Street divide, and you have one of the most polarizing candidates in the history of American politics, and Donald Trump. All this on the heels of the murder of George Floyd and social unrest across our country. We very much have a country that is divided right now. When everyone was going into this election, no matter the mainstream networks that you watch, the national and mainstream media had Biden a clear-cut front-runner and Biden a clear-cut favorite. Folks, the national and mainstream media could not have gotten this election more wrong. National pollsters, networks like ABC and NBC, had Biden winning states by 7 and 8 point margins. Those states went Trump's way by 4, 5, 6 points. Mainstream media was very wrong with their coverage and prediction of this election. A divided country that very much is searching for its brand identity. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to sincerely think about this, and please offer your perspective. What is the brand identity of the United States of America in 2020? What is our brand? What is our identity? How does the world see us? Think about it. Put your feedback and answers in the feed. What is the brand identity of this country? Because from a voting standpoint, you see a nation divided to its very core. And how about this? How many of you are asking this question? Why on Wednesday, November 4th, halfway through the business day, do we not have this election determined? How many of you are asking that? How many of you are asking this question? We have a federal election, yet 50 states determine the voting protocol and how votes will be counted and tallied when and how. Why does a federal election not have federal guidelines in place for counting and tallying votes? Do you realize this could go on for days if certain things fall or go a certain way? Pennsylvania and North Carolina can wait days before they let the world know who's won this election. Why does a federal election not have federal protocols for counting and tallying votes? How many of you were watching the election last night and you saw Joe Biden as the winner in Virginia with 10% of voters being counted? How many of you at 8, 9 o'clock were wondering, what's going on here? Trump has made way more votes, but the AP's calling it for Biden. That's a reflection of the mail-in ballot. In particular, the mail-in ballot in the Northern Virginia area that is tremendously Democratic. The mail-in ballot, without question, the early voting a reflection of political ideology. Early votes that came in through mail were undoubtedly Democratic. Voting in person on election day, much more Republican. The mail-in voting, the early voting versus the in-person voting, a reflection of political ideology. I ask you this question. Are elections like this bad for America? Are they a reflection of how democracy is supposed to be? Is a country that is divided almost evenly down the middle with who it wants in the White House, is that a positive for the nation and moving forward, or is that going to create any kind of progress from happening or developing? If the Republicans control the Senate, and it looks like they are, and if Biden's in the White House, what happens in the next 4 years? Is Wall Street responding favorably? And Wall Street most certainly is. My portfolio up over 5%. You look at the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Russell 2000 as of 12:45 p.m. on Wednesday, November 4th, and the Dow Jones is up close to 3%, the S&P almost 3.5%, the NASDAQ, tech-heavy NASDAQ, 4.5% green, and the Russell 2000 also green. Wall Street sees a Republican-controlled Senate as a positive. This 24, 36-hour, 48-hour period, or however long this period lasts, an emotional roller coaster ride that undoubtedly aligns with the roller coaster ride we've had in 2020 due to this pandemic. COVID has influenced this election. It's driven a firestorm behind early and mail-in voting. Can't argue with that. Now we sit back and wait, just like the rest of the world does. And we see what's going to happen in a presidential election that's much less politics and much more reality television. That's the world we live in today. Bob Good beats Cameron Webb. Gerrymandered 5th district of tremendous proportions. A district the size even larger than the state of New Jersey. Cameron Webb was as good as a candidate that the Democrats could trot out. You have a 2020 that's ready for massive change. You have a murder with George Floyd. You have a candidate in Cameron Webb that's intelligent, affable, skilled, experienced, well-funded, well-connected. Heck, this guy's a doctor during a pandemic, an African-American doctor during 2020 when social justice and evening the gap between white America and America of color being more important than ever before. And that's the world we live in. We must prioritize the closing of this social gap. You could not have asked for a more qualified, more appealing, a stronger candidate than Dr. Cameron Webb. Still, a man who extremely distances himself from same-sex marriage and Bob Good, a man that is evangelical to the core, Bob Good, a man that bamboozled the Republican ticket away from Denver Riggleman, Bob Good, a man who does television ads while wrestling his son to campaign for Congress. You heard me correctly. A man who wears wrestling spandex in a 30-second television commercial while wrestling his son, thinking that's the right optic strategy to win the 5th. This guy still gets the W. It's an indication of a gerrymandered rural district. Dr. Webb ran a tremendous campaign. This kind of district worked very much against him, despite macro factors that gave him tailwinds of fantastic proportions. J-Dubs, check that side panel out. So here's the question. Where does Charlottesville go from here? Where does Central Virginia go from here? The Commonwealth, what do we do? Where do we go? We got to figure out a budget deficit of tremendous proportion. And it's not just Charlottesville, it's not just Albemarle County, it's municipalities from east to west coast. It's states across the country. I'll get to casinos coming to Virginia shortly. I'll get to cannabis coming across the country shortly. I'll get to the first majority black city council in Roanoke history shortly. Before I do, in 364 days, yes, you heard me correctly, 364, the city of Charlottesville will have an important election. 2 city council spots come up for grabs, Mayor Nakiah Walker's and Councilor Heather Hill's. So now, the city we love, Charlottesville, in the short term, it's looking for a city manager. Do I think we'll have one in place before 2021? No. Did I say on this very program, maybe 45 days ago, that the new city manager was going to be a lame duck hire right before the 2021 city council election, with 2 new people coming in council that had nothing to do with the hire of the city manager? Yes, I did. Is that what's going to happen? Yes, it is. We won't see a new CEO of Charlottesville until into 2021. And as soon as that 2021 city manager starts getting his or her feet on the ground, 2 new bosses, 2 new members of the board will be elected, and that CEO is going to have to play the politics game yet again. 2021, I'm going to tell you right now, 2021 is a crossroads year for Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia. Our backs are against the wall from a budget deficit standpoint. We're hiring a city manager, we're voting in 2 city councilors, and we got to figure out a way to make some money to help a budget deficit that is hemorrhaging. Charlottesville and the Commonwealth, blue as can be, as expected. Except in the 5th, where a man who wears spandex and wrestles his son in television commercials can get victories in Congress. Our next topic comes from Roanoke, then casinos, then Dave Norris, Crystal Napier, and some items from the Virginia Football Notebook. Thank you for joining us on the I Love CVille show. Get your perspective in the feed now. Share your thoughts. 4 casinos coming to Virginia. Before we get to that, Roanoke, Virginia made some massive moves last night. Roanoke, Virginia made history when voters elected the city's first ever majority black city council. Incumbent Democrat Trish White-Boyd, Democrat Robert Jeffrey Jr., and Independent Stephanie Moon Reynolds won the 3 open seats in a crowded 8-way race that came down to the record high number of ballots cast ahead of Election Day. City Council in Roanoke determined by the mail-in ballots that came before yesterday. Roanoke making history with a majority black city council. 3 very talented candidates. I guess now counselors in Roanoke. Now gambling, before we get to Dave Norris in 2 minutes. Gambling on the rise. Casinos on the rise. Cannabis on the rise. Hard Rock Casino in Bristol, Virginia, approved. Caesars Casino in Danville, Virginia, approved. A new casino backed by an Indian tribe in downtown Norfolk, approved. A new casino coming to Portsmouth, Virginia, approved. 4 casinos green-lighted by voters across the Commonwealth. There are now 25 states that allow casino gambling in America. Virginia, Maryland, South Dakota, Nebraska, Louisiana, and Colorado joined the crowd last night. You see the casino stocks. I personally own Penn National Gaming. The casino stocks are spiking. Municipalities need incremental revenue to close budget deficits. The Virginia governor has said he's going to give 5 to 12 gambling licenses strategically positioned across Virginia, and people are chomping at the bit for the money. Bristol, Virginia, voters overwhelmingly voted in favor of the Hard Rock Casino. This is a $400 million project. 400, 2-to-1 in favor of this project that's going to generate 2,000 jobs and between $15 to $20 million in tax revenue for the city. How about Danville, Virginia? $400 million Caesars Casino approved for Danville, Virginia. Buku bucks, buku job, buku tax revenue. Norfolk, 2-to-1 margin, vote in favor. 2,500 new jobs in Norfolk. Portsmouth, $300 million casino. Wins by a landslide. Now, how about cannabis? Green, shrub, weed, marijuana. Cannabis legislation on 5 state ballots yesterday. Cannabis ran the table yesterday. New Jersey, Montana, South Dakota, Arizona, Mississippi. Guess what? They all green-lighted green. It comes down to money. It's money. And these places have their backs on the wall, backs against the wall. So they need money. We'll talk about this on the program. Dave Norris, I'm going to go to you in a matter of moments. I'm going to talk after Dave Norris and Crystal Napier on how Wall Street is responding to what looks like, at least now, Biden in the White House and the Republicans controlling Senate. We'll talk about how Wall Street's responding after Dave Norris and Crystal Napier. I want to get 2 thought leaders in Dave Norris and Crystal Napier, their perspective on what happened last night. Dave Norris, a political junkie. He loves this stuff. I was glued to the television for like 8.5 hours straight last night. It was less election and more reality TV, it seemed like. We got Dave Norris on the line, Judah Wickhauer, friend of this program, A-plus guy. We just lost him. We'll see if I can reach out to him again. Dave, if you're watching, I'm calling you back here. There we go. All right, Dave, we got you. How are you?
Hey, great, Jerry. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I was eager to chat with you. First guy I thought about after watching last night. I was on the couch for 8 hours straight. I was wondering what my boy Dave Norris was doing. I'm going to get out of your way. Anywhere you want to go.
What a night, man. That was it's a wild ride, and of course it's still going on. You know, we're going to be at this for another day or two, counting all the votes, making sure everybody's vote gets counted, and at the end of the day, I think we'll see a new president, Joe Biden, but it's certainly not the landslide that some people were predicting or hoping for. Quite the squeaker, and I think, as you said earlier, it just shows one more piece of evidence to how divided we are as a country. And given the fact that the Democrats are likely to take the White House and keep the House of Representatives, and the Republicans are likely to keep the Senate, it's going to really require the grown-ups in the room to work together and try to do some things to bring this country together. Otherwise, I really fear for our future. So I hope things go for the best, but I'm trying to stay realistic. But it's going to be interesting times.
Dave Norris said it extremely well. When you start seeing the votes coming in and the electoral being counted, and you see how close it was happening, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's flashbacks to 2016, really, because going into election night on 2016, I think everybody was assuming, not everybody, but a lot of people were assuming Hillary Clinton was going to take it away and win that election, and obviously that didn't happen. And so yesterday, all the pundits were saying, it's Biden's to lose. It's Biden's to lose. He's gonna have a good night. And then as the night went on, Florida goes for Trump, Texas goes for Trump. States where they thought Biden might be competitive, he was actually down quite significantly in some of these states. And so, it leads us to where we are now, where we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona to a lesser extent. There's still states that are still up in the air, but I think at the end of the day, it's looking good for a Biden victory. So.
I think he's exactly right. 5th District, Cameron Webb, a guy I love on this program, had so many factors working in favor. Incredibly well-funded, a doctor and a lawyer, serves in President Obama's candidate. He's a doctor during COVID. He's as likable a guy as possible. He's running at a time when we're trying and we're prioritizing the closure of this social gap, the social unrest in America that's happening here. 5th District, too red, too gerrymandered. A guy who's doing wrestling ads with his son somehow finds himself in Congress today.
I mean, you could have put Kermit the Frog and put an R behind his name, and he would have been elected. It's just such a gerrymandered district, as you know, Jerry, and as you've mentioned. And so it just, Cameron, well, you could not have asked for a better candidate than Cameron Webb, and so, and even still, just the R's in this district just vastly outnumber the D's, and so that's what happens when you get gerrymandering. And I'm hopeful that the districts are going to be redrawn both on the national level and on the state level, so that we don't have this ridiculous situation we have in the 5th District, where it's just the lines are written to protect the incumbent party, and that's not the way it should be.
Where does you're a connected guy, you know how the game is played. Where does a guy and a candidate like Cameron Webb go from here? What happens? What do you do? Do you go in the political hopper and you're kind of waiting to see how the tea leaves play out and what happens in 2 years? What do you do?
Yeah, I think that's what he does is watches what happens with redistricting, because there's likely to be changes in the district lines. And if I'm Cameron Webb, I'm going to start teeing up my next campaign. The sky's the limit for Cameron Webb. He's kind of a rock star, and so I think he has a bright future, whatever direction he has. He's got a lot of talents, and whether it's another run for office or and just working in his own career, he's got lots of opportunities. So I have high hopes for Cameron Webb. I don't think this is the last we've seen of Cameron Webb. So
I think he's exactly right. What does Charlottesville do from here? Where does Charlottesville go from here? Central Virginia go from here? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlottesville, it's interesting. We were the second bluest locality in Virginia last night. We voted 86% for Joe Biden. Petersburg is the only locality in Virginia that had higher turnout for Biden at 88%. So Charlottesville is this little blue oasis, and we're going to continue to be a little blue oasis. Albemarle County, interestingly, is also trending bluer and bluer all the time. When I first moved to this area, Albemarle County was a pretty red district, red county, and at one point they had almost, I think, every county supervisor was either Republican or at least identified as a conservative, and now they went it was 60 some odd percent, almost 70% for Joe Biden yesterday. So so we're a little oasis. In terms of our impact on the 5th District, though, it's minimal, because again, you can get all the votes in Charlottesville and Albemarle County and still get swamped in the 5th District, and that is going to be addressed, I assume, with redistricting. And I expect in the future, Charlottesville would be better positioned to help impact elections on the congressional level and in state house races as well. But that's all up to this redistricting process. The redistricting amendment passed yesterday, by a pretty strong margin in Virginia. That's a big step. I know not everybody was thrilled with it, but it got over 60% of support in Virginia, and that's it's going to take redistricting out of the hands of the General Assembly and the two political parties, and they've both been guilty of using districting and redistricting to favor themselves and favor their incumbents. Now it's going to be in the hands of a bipartisan group that will include citizens and legislators, and hopefully we'll get some better results.
I love that. That's a good take. Charlottesville, 2 spots up on council next run. City managers still need to be hired. We're going into the holiday season where efficiencies are not as strong as they are in Q1, Q2, Q3. Anywhere you want to go on these 2 topics?
Yeah, there's already people jockeying for position on the city council in terms of running for city council next November, and so the jockeying has begun. That's not entirely unusual. It seems a little early, but it's not entirely unusual for people to be, putting themselves out there already, at least, floating some trial balloons. So we're going to see a pretty exciting race next year. And I don't know who's going to run as, if anybody's going to run as an independent. The Republicans may put somebody up, but again, look at last night. This is just an overwhelmingly blue town. So yeah, it's going to be a fiercely contested city council election, and I'm sure it'll generate a lot of discussion on your show over the next year till we get to November. But and as you said, they've got an important job ahead of them in the coming months in terms of finding a new city manager. John Blair's doing a great job as the interim city manager. I harbor secret hopes that he'll stay on, but I don't think he has any desire to stay on as city manager.
He straight up said that, yeah.
Right, but he's a good guy, and he's very sharp, and so the city's in good hands with John Blair right now, and hopefully they'll get a good city manager to replace him on a permanent basis. So.
You led me to one of the questions I want to ask you. Crystal Napier is going to join us in about 6 minutes, guys. A guy like who's a friend of the program and Bellamy Brown ran as an independent. He did not get one of the 3 spots on council this past go around. This guy is, to use your phrase, a rock star here. A guy like Bellamy, who I know has a future for politics and would be a fantastic politician because he's very good at catering to people on both sides of the aisle and doing it sincerely and genuinely. Does this guy make a push as a Dem in November?
That's a great question, and I think he has to make that call. He has come out. He came out pretty strongly for Biden in this election. I don't know if that's a sign that he's thinking about jumping ship from the independents into and becoming a Democrat. You look at what Bob Fenwick did when he ran first as an independent, lost, and then eventually ran as a Democrat and won. And I think people, it's very rare. Nikiah Walker was the first one in decades to actually win as an independent. So when you have that party machinery behind you, it certainly makes it easier. And you have that D behind your name, it certainly makes it easier to get elected in the city of Charlottesville. So if I'm Bellamy Brown, that's certainly a very attractive alternative, and I have no inside knowledge about what he's planning to do, but if I were him, I would seriously consider it.
All right, get us out of this. Get us out of here on this note. Anywhere you want to go, we got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas. I think on New Year's Eve, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to clank their glass and say, to hell with this year.
Right.
Give us some perspective on the rest of the year and anywhere you want to go on this topic.
Well, the $84 million question is, when are we going to get a vaccine? That's the big question, because that's going to be a total game changer, right? And so I'm worried. I know a lot of people were worried about what's going to happen this winter if we don't have a vaccine, or if the vaccine isn't rolled out very quickly once it is online, because this virus doesn't, it's really ravaged us last winter, and it looks like it's coming back with a fierceness to it, which is it's going to hurt our economy, it's going to hurt our society, it's going to obviously result in a lot more deaths, and so we need this vaccine on board as quickly as possible. And so as soon as that vaccine is out and it's proven to be safe, I hope as many people take advantage of it as possible, because without it, we're just going to be hurting. And so we've been through hell this year, as you said, 2020. And we need some good news by the end of this year. And so that vaccine will make all the difference in the world. So both locally and nationally and worldwide. So.
Amen. I hope you're right. I hope that happens. Thank you. Love chatting with you. You're the man. You have a good day.
You do the same, Jerry. Always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Take care, Dave. You have a good one.
Take care.
Love Dave Norris. Love that guy. Couple things I want to get out of the notebook. Crystal Napier, we're going to go to you in about 2 minutes on the program here, and then we'll welcome you on the show. Let's see if I can get this. In regards to COVID, the election day yesterday was the second highest amount of COVID cases in United States history. COVID is surging right now. I'll repeat that statistic. Election day, Tuesday, November 3rd, the second highest amount of COVID cases in American history. COVID is surging. It's being pushed out of the news cycle by a presidential election, and it has been over the last week. But please realize the United Kingdom is on lockdown. Connecticut just rolled from phase 3 to a hybrid phase 2.5, asking restaurants to shut down at 9:30 and limiting indoor dining capacity even more than what it was a couple of weeks ago. It's surging right now. It's not on the tip of our tongue or being prioritized by the mainstream media because there's a presidential election going on. So much happening in this calendar year. The resolve of humans, the resolve of Americans, Virginians, Central Virginians, and Charlottesvillians has been tested significantly. I'll get to your comments in a matter of moments. We'll go to Crystal Napier here in about 90 seconds for Crystal Napier. Wall Street is on fire right now. Wall Street has all the indices are green. Every single indice is green. The NASDAQ is plus 4%. S&P 500 plus 3%. Dow Jones 2.5%. Small cap Russell 2000 about a point green. Wall Street is predicting a Biden win, a Republican-controlled Senate, a locked government. Wall Street is predicting corporate tax exposure to be minimal with a Senate controlled by the GOP. What is the brand identity of America? I'm going to ask you that question. Crystal, I'll ask you that question. I'm going to start with Crystal in about 45 seconds. What is the brand identity of our country? We are a divided country right now. And how wrong did the mainstream media get this election? I mean, in some states, ABC, the New York Times, the Quinnipiac University poll, some of these networks and mainstream media outlets were off in their projections in individual states by 10 to 12 percentage points. I'm going to reach out to Crystal Napier, Judah Wickower on the I Love CVille show. I'm excited to chat with Crystal here on the program. Our friend Crystal Napier on the program. This is Crystal Spotlight, presented by Renee Boutique. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. At first, I couldn't.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, all right, I'm eager to chat with you. So much I want to cover. I'm sure, like you, all of us kind of like in this vulnerable roller coaster ride that has been this last 24, 48-hour period that's a presidential election. Here's a question I have for you, Crystal, and I'll get out of your way. Okay, how about an open-ended question first? What'd you make of yesterday?
I think I'm still trying to process what I made of yesterday. I had really, I voted early, so my due diligence was over a while ago. I think I was just kind of even keel. I remember I talked to my physical therapist yesterday, and she was talking about, she was nervous and some friends. And I was just like, I'm not nervous. I just feel that it's going to be what it's going to be. I have did my best to encourage folks to go to the polls and vote. I have casted my vote. I have presented facts, the knowledge, and I supported the candidates that I felt had my family and friends' best interests. And at the end of the day, that's all we can do. And I'm just not going to sit, stress, and worry because I believe that we're going to overcome regardless of who's going to sit in those positions. I was, disappointed that one of the candidates for our 5th district ended up losing. I kind of chuckled listening to your show today because you kept talking about that wrestling commercial.
Right. Wasn't that ridiculous? It was so ridiculous. I mean, whoever told Bob Good that he should get in spandex and wrestle his son and put it across Virginia to try to get into Congress, that person should be fired, okay? That was the most ridiculous campaign ad I've ever seen.
So I didn't realize your depth of petty, Jerry, because I said the same thing. I have said the same exact thing. I told Sean, I was like, I'm so sick of seeing that commercial.
Right.
It is absolutely ridiculous.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And he wins fairly big in the 5th District, Crystal. I mean, it's crazy. Let me ask you this question. I trust your judgment. I love your judgment here. Serious question for you. What do you think is the brand identity of our country? And then I absolutely want to highlight Lucky's Transport today on the show and Cedric Randolph. The brand identity of this nation. What do you think it is?
In this moment in time, the brand identity?
Sure.
I think very similar to what Dave said before, it's that we're divided. It feels like it's a chaotic time. And I don't feel that we look good in the light of other countries right now. And that part in itself is a little disturbing that, America has been held high as one of the greatest countries on earth. And for us to have so much turmoil and divisiveness, it's a sad state. But I truly am going to keep hope and, staying positive that change is going to come. We have to open our minds and our hearts to each other in order for that to happen. And there's still a lot of closed-minded folks out there, clearly.
Oh,
so.
I love this lady. This Crystal Napier spotlight presented by Renee's Boutique is going flawlessly. You're very relaxed and calm. I very like this. Okay, Cedric Randolph, Lucky's Transport in the spotlight on your Crystal Napier spotlight presented by Renee's Boutique. Give us some perspective on Cedric first.
So Cedric Randolph, he is. I met him through my church. Actually, we both are members of White Rock Baptist Church, and he is an incredible drummer for us at our church. And Cedric is hilarious. He is probably one of the funniest guys I know. Just always upbeat, great sense of humor. And Cedric approached me 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, before he started Lucky Transport. To ask me about how to start a small business, because he realized, his wife actually and his daughters actually are clients of Renee's Boutique, as well as one of his daughters have interned with me and helped me out with my shop before. So he was familiar with my business and asked me about how to start a small business. And so we talked about that, and I gave him some of my resources. And lo and behold, 1 year after he started Lucky Transport, Cedric went full time with his business, and he continues to grow his business. He is Lucky Transport is actually a hauling transportation company. So they do a lot of hauling and delivering of vehicles. They take it from different dealerships, auctions. They also provide transport for campers, lawnmowers, you name it. One of the things that he will hopefully haul for us this weekend is Micah playset. So we're excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your kid's getting hooked up?
Yes, he's getting hooked up. We're very excited about that. So, but yeah, he is a licensed and insured company. So he's going to make sure that you get your prized possessions very safely to the next destination. And one of the cool things I was looking over what he sent me is that he delivers exotic cars. Ooh. So, your Lamborghinis and Vipers and all of those hot cars that my husband is totally in love with. Yeah.
With the pork chop Sean makes, he should get a Lambo.
All right, Jerry.
Her husband makes
Watch it,
great pork
Daryl.
chops. She sent me a picture, and they look damn good. They look really
they
good.
were.
I bet they
They
were.
so well.
I love Sean, her husband. What makes Cedric? What makes Cedric successful? Why do you think he's running a good business?
Well, part of his mission is that he wants to bless others as he has been blessed. And I just thought that was so powerful that, that's coming from the place that he's operating. And it shows the testament of the growth of his business, as well as he does so many things with giving back to his community, which, that's a person after my own heart. And one of the things that they did in October, every year they've been creating a breast cancer awareness t-shirt.
Nice.
And they sell the t-shirts, but all of the proceeds that they receive from the t-shirts, they donated to the Susan G. Komen Foundation for breast cancer. So these are just, he also said that he sponsors local kickball teams, and it looks like he's donated some equipment for different sports organizations, and sponsored a walk across our page ceremony for all of the 2020 graduates,
Nice.
Which I actually saw that on social media. He highlighted the 2020 graduates and actually provided them, I believe, a gift card for several different graduates that graduated from the Nelson County High School, because they actually are residents of Nelson County.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool. Wednesdays, Crystal Napier Spotlight presented by Renee's Boutique. Renee's Boutique, her business. We're going to get to Renee's Boutique here in a matter of moments. He sounds like A-plus people, Cedric does. This year, 2020, did you ask him about COVID and how he was managing?
I did not. I did not, because let me tell you why.
Okay.
Cedric called me on Sunday
Okay.
while the Steelers game was on.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to be honest, Jerry. It was all about my boys. That was a tight game. And so
You're
I
undefeated.
honestly wasn't.
You're undefeated.
Yes. 7-0. Yes, we are. Yes. I'm so proud of my boys. But yeah, he called me during the Steelers game right at the end when it was getting really tight. And I called him back right after, and I was just so hyped about the game. I really wasn't focused at the time, so I didn't get to ask him those wonderful questions. It would have gave me, more insight. But probably, I would say with COVID, knowing that Cedric is working in the automotive industry, and our pastor actually works in the automotive industry, and I know that industry has actually been booming.
It's exploding
during COVID.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's exploding. People want used cars. They want new cars. They're afraid of public transportation. Stocks like CarMax and Carvana are absolutely exploding. If you're in the transportation business of vehicles, you're probably doing pretty well right now.
Absolutely, and he is. So I saw at the beginning of this year he had just expanded his line of equipment to serve, to expand his services across Virginia. So he's growing. He's making it happen during these times and taking advantage of a wonderful time for his industry, which I'm really excited about.
I'm happy as well, Cedric Randolph, about that. Lucky Transport LLC on Facebook. Renee's Boutique. How's our favorite boutique doing?
Renee's Boutique. We are hanging in here. Ladies have been loving our Cozy Desire collection. It has been going really well. We love comfort, and since we're doing a lot of working from home, they have been awesome pieces that we've been showcasing, and ladies have been buying them. So thank you. Please keep buying them. As you can see, I have a few pieces showcased always, and trying to keep it fresh on our mannequins. But, just comfortable, figure-flattering clothing is what we're promoting. And one thing we've started, every Monday, we post the Zoom look of the week.
Ooh.
So be on the lookout for that. Yeah. And so give you different ideas of different tops and accessories that you can showcase on your Zoom calls and working from home. So
awesome. Follow Renee's Boutique, guys, on Facebook. Check them out online. She's doing fantastic stuff with live video content on social media, which I enjoy following. It's really made her already genuine and approachable brand even more accessible online. She's doing it the right way. She is awesome. Let Sean get a Lambo, please. Please let Sean get a Lambo. Thank you. You're amazing.
You'll have to put us on the I Love CVille payroll for that one, for that Lambo. Hey, we're not doing that well yet.
You're awesome. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for spotlighting Cedric, and thank you for your takes on where we are as a community, Crystal. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, Jerry. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, Crystal. Bye. She is
right.
awesome. Check out Renee's Boutique, guys, on Facebook. Seriously, she's an amazing entrepreneur. She is a connected woman. She is a connected woman. She knows a lot of people. She's an evangelist for the community, a champion for the community. Crystal Napier, owner of Renee's Boutique. She joins us Wednesdays on the I Love CVille show. A couple of items I want to get out of the notebook before we get to your perspective. Give the show a like and a share now. If you're watching Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, give the show a like and a share now. Do us that favor, please. Very quickly, a sports item out of the notebook, Judah. UVA defensive end Richard Burney is out for the season. Not good. He is a senior defensive end, a team captain. The school did not disclose the injury. He missed the majority of the 2018 season with blood clots in his lungs. However, the injury for 2020 has not been released. He is a senior defensive end, Richard Burney, a team captain, 2 sacks in 5 games this year. We certainly thoughts and prayers with you, sir. And you will be missed on this University of Virginia football team. We'll get to your comments in a matter of moments. Barbara Lundgren, thank you for sharing the show. Rosemary Postel, hello. Vanessa Parkhill, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for liking and sharing the show. Dave Norris says, Crystal Napier rocks. Yes, she does. She is absolutely amazing. Dave Norris, you also rock as well, my friend. A couple of items I want to get out for those that are just tuning into the broadcast here. I've been thinking about what my primary business, we do 3 businesses here. Our primary business is an advertising agency. And an advertising agency, if it works and performs well for its clients, in a nutshell, what an advertising agency does well is manage perception. An advertising agency knows that if it increases brand awareness for a client and a brand strategically, then that strategic increase in brand awareness will drive new customers, and new customers will drive incremental revenue to the clients we are servicing. That's what VMV Brands does. It drives increased brand awareness, which drives new customers, which creates incremental revenue. We've been doing this successfully for almost 13 years as a business owner, 13 years in May. We are the best at what we do in 60 miles of Charlottesville and have the most market share. That's the primary business. The second business, real estate ownership and investment. The third business, which we're most known for, is this network, the I Love CVille network, and the talk shows that we air on this network. I want to talk about brand identity. Brand identity very much aligns with what I do 70 hours a week and what I have done for 70 hours a week for the last 20 years, 12 as a business owner, 8 while working in various forms of media or advertising, print, radio, television, and digital. 8 years in the space, then I launched my own company. The brand identity of our nation is uncertain. The brand identity of America is unknown. The brand identity of the United States is to be determined. Are we an innovative, capitalistic, market-driven country? Perhaps pockets are. Are we a country that truly prioritizes closing social inequities and social and racial wrongs? There are pockets of the country that believe in that. There are pockets that do not believe in that. Are we a country that's struggling with an ideology, and whether it's trending socialist, GOP, or Democrat? The answer, yes, yes, and yes. So, as we head to the back portion of 2020, as we welcome family to Thanksgiving, family to Christmas, as we click our champagne glasses on December 31st at 11:59 p.m., and we say, to hell with you, 2020, I want you to ask yourself, your friends, and your family this question. What do you think the brand identity of our country is? And I think if you ask that question as a conversation starter at a cocktail party, at a family function, at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at New Year's, you're staying away from politics. You're not talking church. You're not talking money. You're just asking, what is the brand identity of this nation? The answers you will hear will be eclectic, ununiformed, and all over the place. We, as Americans, Virginians, and Charlottesvillians, have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do moving forward? What are we going to prioritize? Is talk actually going to lead to action? Because in 2020, we saw significant social and racial unrest. We had a white police officer murder a black man in Minneapolis. On election day, just a few short months after that murder, we have a vote turnout that's evenly split, essentially, from a popular vote standpoint. That shows you half the country feels one way, the other half this way. What's the identity? When we can answer that question and be uniform with our answer, then we can start making progress. And it doesn't have to be binary. We can be pro-small business while also being pro-closing social unrest and social gaps. We can be pro-supporting the mom and pops out there while also being open-minded, supportive, and offering a hand up, not a hand out, but a hand up to our friends and our neighbors and the citizens in our community that need a little bit of a boost. They can go hand in hand. Focusing on running a business in the black can go hand in hand with giving someone a hand up, not a hand out, but a little bit of help. So I'll close with that message. At the Thanksgiving table, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, whatever you celebrate, however you celebrate, whoever you celebrate with, ask your friends, ask your family, the people you come across, what's the brand identity of this nation? I think you'll be surprised to hear the results, how different they are. I think you'll be surprised to see the range of perspective. We, in 2020, are a country divided and very much trying to figure out who we are as American people. My name is Jerry Miller. That's the I Love CVille show for today.